So for all of the what feels like negativity in the atmosphere about the Georgia Bulldogs, I'm not sure that's really based in reality. Number one, and the more and more, the closer and closer we get to the season, the metrics that are coming out that I pay attention to show that Georgia is very much in the thick of the possibility of winning a national championship. In fact, could be considered a favorite in some instances. Today, ESPN released its FPI. Now, what is FPI? It's not, it's one of their metrics. It's not always the most reliable, but it is a quote predictive rating system that estimates each team's strength on offense, defense, and special teams. Yada yada yada. I thought Georgia would be lower. They had Georgia at number 2, behind Texas by about 2 points in the FPI. Total projected wins about 10. So this, you're seeing what's happening. Someone at ESPN has gotten a hold of other people and said, hey, we need this to, now that we're in the betting game, we need this to more closely resemble reality / our betting lines. And if you go across and look at things, you take a look at our buddies over at BetMGM. Georgia is the third betting favorite to win the national championship. You take a look at FanDuel. They are essentially the favorite with Texas and Ohio State. Georgia's favored over Texas to win the SEC championship. I went back yesterday, and well, by the time y'all watch this, it will be a couple days ago. I watched the Sugar Bowl. The notion that Gunnar Stockton didn't play well is not real. Go watch the first quarter of Georgia. They were pushing Notre Dame around all over the place. Then Etienne's fumble, and of course a quarter later, the fumble that gifted Notre Dame a touchdown. You're talking about a 14-point swing right there. Nevertheless, the great play that Notre Dame had coming out of the half. Notre Dame deserved to win that game. They were the better team. They played better. Turnovers matter. That is a part of the sport. But, I don't know if people are listening to Paul. I don't know if there's Georgia fans like to be negative. I understand that. I mean, they've got a decades-long culture of listening to Larry Munson, who was the best in the business. But the reality is that Georgia is not an underdog. Never was, never. Well, they probably were in the 80s maybe at times, but they're not underdogs. They are the best program in college football. And the notion that Kirby Smart would not start the best quarterback that he sees all of the time, the notion that Gunnar Stockton can't win them the national championship, that is not real. A year ago or 6 months ago, I said they're not going to win the national championship without Carson back, and they weren't going to, and they didn't. But this is a different situation. This is a different team and a different set of circumstances. This is not a great run of college football teams that are out there. If Texas, I think, Texas is the best team in the country coming into this thing. If they're the best team in the country, that's a team Georgia can definitely beat multiple times in a season. We talk about all that and more. I've got a great offer for y'all. You can get 3 months of Dawg Post and our 2025 preview by subscribing to 1 month of Dawg Post. You buy 1 month and you get 3 months total, as well as the 2025 preview. The link is down below. A lot of people are taking advantage of this. Offer's not going to last forever. Take advantage of it while you can. I appreciate all of those of you who have. And in the preview, I talked with Mike Bobo in a one-on-one interview that I had with him about Gunnar and why did they grab him? What happened? Why did they want his commitment back in the day? What happened at the half during the Texas game? And so it's a curious story about how Gunnar Stockton became, quote, the guy at Georgia. And as we move forward, he's going to have to continue to be, he's going to have to play in a way that proves that he's the guy. Just because you're starting doesn't mean that your team can depend on you all the time. A season ago with Carson Beck, the Carson Beck of 2023 was not there in 2024 the way that he had been a season before. I think a lot of that were people around him, but there were things that he did not do. There were mistakes that he made consistently by himself, forcing balls that hurt Georgia. But anyway, ESPN's got Texas as the one with a 28.5 FPI, whatever that means. The biggest thing is what percent chance do they have of winning the national championship. The ESPN's FPI has them at 22%. That's probably a little bit too high. Then they got Georgia at 17.5%. And then another 6 points down is Ohio State. I would not have it that discombobulated. I do not think Texas has double the chance of Ohio State to win the national championship at all. But I do think that those three are the top three teams. ESPN's got Alabama at 4. I do not think that's correct. I think I think Penn State and Oregon would likely be in front of them. But we'll just see. They've got Penn State at 5, Oregon at 6, Clemson at 7, then Miami and Notre Dame 8, 9, and Tennessee at 10. I think that's overvaluing Tennessee, in my opinion. I think Tennessee's got some challenges coming into 25, let alone the controversy for sure around their quarterback. I mean, you're losing time when that sort of stuff happens. I think Tennessee, we're going to see real quick. I mean, what they've got. I mean, they play a legitimate game to open the season, and they host Georgia in week 3. So it's going to be a real challenging thing. ESPN's projecting the SEC to have 4.6 playoff teams, a likelihood of 61% that the Southeastern Conference wins the national championship. That's a little high for me, but we'll just see. Big Ten should get 3 in, 24% chance to win it all. The ACC with an 8% chance to win it all. Big 12 with 1.1%, and then essentially Notre Dame with a 2% chance to win the national championship. I don't know. Best offenses. It's just some people are not going to like this. Georgia at number 2 behind Texas. But for all of the doubting of Gunner and the hating of Bobo, the reality is Georgia really added a lot of pieces to the puzzle that were important ones coming into 2025. That, Branch, Thomas from, Texas A&M, these are guys that are going to help you perform quickly. Branch, is not Ladd McConkey, but he is Ladd McConkey adjacent. And they just did not have that this past season. You're also, the return of Dylan Bell. You've got the return of Colby Young. I think Colby Young, you're essentially from the end of the season adding 3, quality to really good wide receivers to your team. You're adding 3 quality to playmaking wide receivers on your team. That's going to make a big difference. Whereas from the essentially Auburn game on, you did not have 2 of your playmaking wide receiver. You did not have Ra Thomas. He was gone. You did not have Colby Young. He was gone. These, it was, and you did not have consistency from Arian Smith the way that you would have liked. Dylan Bell needs to continue to progress. I mean, I'm a Dylan Bell guy, so that's me. ESPN also has Georgia as the number 2 total defense. I do think there's some challenges there. But I would add this about all of what's going on in college football. I think we are at a slight dip. If college football peaked between 2019 and 22 with those national championship teams, this might be as low as we've been in college football. But, we'll just see. We will just see how that goes. In the grand scheme of things, I think it's hard to know just what college football has to say about itself this fall, but we do know there's a lot of transition at quarterback, a lot. I'm going to touch on this briefly because I'll probably do another video on it. 3 of the biggest 4 games of the season, Georgia's playing in those games, according to this FPI's ratings. That would be Texas, Georgia at the number 1, and then Texas, Ohio State, which I think is the biggest game of the season. And then you'd say Bama, Georgia, and then Tennessee, Georgia at the 4 spot. I don't think Bama, Georgia would, if Alabama is not really the number 3 team, and I don't think they are, then that game wouldn't be as high. And then you've got stuff like Penn State, Ohio State that would maybe slip in front of it. But still, I would say at worst, 3 of the 5, quote, biggest matchups between high-powered teams will have Georgia in those games. Obviously, Bama, Georgia. Obviously, Texas, Georgia. But then you've got perhaps Tennessee, Georgia. I don't think Ole Miss will be as good as they were this past season, but let's just see. Georgia is on this list a lot. Georgia, Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Georgia, Texas. Georgia, Clemson doesn't open the season, but I'm just going to look real quick. Clemson, I think, plays the advantage if you're Clemson is that you play one of these top 25 games, but most anticipated games, one. Georgia is going to play in that's 6 of them. Texas, Bama, Tennessee, Auburn, which is not Auburn. He's got Auburn. They've got Auburn at 14. That's not real. Okay. Anyway, Auburn, Florida, and then Ole Miss. So, I think if you're Georgia and you say, okay, we've got 6 huge games this season. What gets us to the playoff? I would say going 4-2 in those games. Or better, and I do not think that that's out of the realm of possibility. I mean, they certainly should beat Ole Miss, Florida. If they should beat Ole Miss in Florida. I would say they should beat Auburn on the road, even though it's on the road. I would say they should beat Tennessee on the road. And I would argue they should beat Alabama and Athens, but I do say that Texas and Bama and Athens will be challenging games. I think on the road at Auburn's challenging too. Same thing with Tennessee. I don't know how good Ole Miss is going to be, and I think there's a lot of momentum for the Gators, but I don't know if it's kind of based in reality or not. We certainly are in talking season right now, and I love talking to y'all. Make sure you're taking advantage of our offer. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.